Hello there. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, thank you. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Doing
Yeah, we're
great.
great. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for accepting this interview. At the end
Sure.
of the day, we're just high schoolers, and we're really glad that you accepted this interview. And I want to personally say how excited I am. All of my furniture is IKEA, so of course this is something we're passionate about. This is why we chose it. I guess we'll jump right in.
Do
The
that.
first question I want to ask you is, how did your career start? Where did you go to university, and how did you get to IKEA?
Okay. So actually, you know, how to start? I'm grown up in the former east part of Germany,
Leipzig, I believe, right?
Leipzig, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was before the Berlin Wall was coming down. In a completely different system, political and economical system compared to what we experience today. And I'm a carpenter, so that's what I started to learn, and I liked very much. But then when the wall was coming down, I pretty soon started to like a lot of business and dealing with business, dealing with customers, and so I really liked it. And that was also the time when IKEA came to the eastern part of Germany. IKEA has been in Germany for many years. Was, I think, the second country for IKEA outside Sweden, or the third one outside Sweden, and is until today the biggest market for IKEA. I think before US even. That was I liked IKEA. I liked the brand, and I liked the international business of for IKEA, and that is how I started.
Yeah, I agree with the brand sentiment. And also, how did you come to live in The Hague?
I have been around with IKEA. So I worked in Germany first, and then I worked 9 years in Sweden. My wife is Swedish, so we have kids, both half German, half Swedish. So 9 years in Germany, in Sweden. I worked there with a lot of product development and basically the development of the kitchen business of IKEA. So we did a lot of research, traveling around, visiting customer homes from China to the US, really on all parts of the world. And then I moved to Russia. I was running the retail business in Russia for 3 years. It was a different country then compared to what it is today. And thereafter I got a call, and they asked me whether I want to work with international expansion, and I found that very interesting, and decided to go to Delft, which is the basically the headquarter of Inter IKEA Systems, because Inter IKEA Systems, as you know, is a franchise system which is not very well known. But because of the Dutch franchise law that allows international franchise business to operate on a global base, so it's so favorable that many of the international companies are actually in the Netherlands and operating it from the Netherlands. And that is how I came to The Hague. So
Very
Delft and
nice.
The Hague is very close together. It's just
Do
a
you
10
like
minutes
it?
drive. Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Netherlands before?
Yes. Actually, I want to live there at some point. I practice my Dutch. Ik ben deze zomer naar Rotterdam geweest en het was
Wow.
prachtig.
Wow.
Ik wil in de toekomst in Nederland wonen.
Okay. And why
That's
is
what I
that?
got.
Why is that?
So beautiful. I mean, I love the country. It's so well developed. The infrastructure, the bikes, the streets. It's a wonderful place. So I do
That's
want to live
true.
in the Netherlands in the future.
That's true.
Yeah.
The only minus point is the weather. We share the
Yes.
same weather
Yeah.
like the British friends have.
Yeah.
It's a lot of rain, and
It
A
rained
lot of
so
gray. Yeah.
much when I was in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. I want to ask you about the sort of franchise structure in IKEA. How does it work? Is it by country? Who can join the franchise? How does the system work?
Yeah. So I mean, all of what I'm telling you is public information. I can just give you my perspective to it. So just so to be clear. But so the franchise structure, first of all, IKEA is a franchise business since the 80s. So the founder of IKEA, he established Inter IKEA Systems, which is the franchisor, the global or worldwide franchisor of IKEA. And he has done that basically for many different reasons, but one reason was to secure that there is an income stream, more income streams for IKEA that are not only depending on the IKEA itself. So he wanted to have franchisees that are able to put investment into it, but also develop the concept themselves. So IKEA is, you can say, is a quite selective club. It's not like other franchise models where you have thousands of different or smaller franchisees. It's basically focusing on professional franchise or franchisees. These are mainly groups. So you have that. You have Inca, of course, which is the own IKEA-grown franchise business. So that has the majority of markets. But then you have franchisees in Asia. So you have, for example, Dairy Farm, which is a part of the Jardine Group in Hong Kong. And they are operating the franchise business in Hong Kong, in Macau, in Indonesia, for example. Then you have Ikano, which is it's the private family business of the founding family. So the founding family doesn't take any money out of the company. So it belongs to how do you say, stitching, a foundation. So Inter IKEA Systems belongs to a foundation. But so you have these kind of different groups of franchisees for the Middle East, some in Europe, some smaller in Turkey. You have it in Greece, Bulgaria, in Spain is divided, and so on. And then you have partners in South America, in Mexico. You have different. We just recently opened Chile, Colombia, and Peru will come. So these are the different or the organization that drive the business, and the reason for that is mainly that it's quite a big investment. So if you just think. IKEA is very much depending on a very well functioning value chain, because IKEA is the brand. IKEA brand has some brand benefits or how do you say that, brand attributes, which has to do with well design for many people, low price, affordable. Good functionality, etc., etc. And in order to make that happen, you have to secure that if you're globally operating, you have to have a supply chain that is capable of delivering to the same attributes, brand attributes that in Germany, for example. So if you pay for a chair 29 euro, you of course that creates a certain image of IKEA where you say, it's low price, it's affordable, and you want to have the same image among customers in Chile or in China or in the United States. So you need to make sure that this chair for 29 euro is landing in the United States or in China for a price that enables the franchisee or the retailer to sell it for €29 or $29 or whatever currency you have. And in order to do that, you need to, as a franchisee, you need to make sure that you have you're not just starting one store, you know. You need to have the means, not just financially, but also the capabilities of educating people, hiring people, have a good, you need to have same culture values like IKEA or similar. You need to like how IKEA is working and how IKEA is developing products and everything. And to do that, you need quite an organization, and you need quite some funding in order to do that. So therefore, this is how IKEA is operating the franchise business. And the second point is IKEA's franchise system is a very entrepreneurial franchise system. It is very clear from a concept. So how a store looks like, how you create your showroom, how you sell your products, how you communicate products, how your advertising looks like, etc., etc. But still, it gives a lot of room for a store manager, for example, or a department manager inside the store to do the best for the business, to rearrange sales steering, to put different products on different places, to be local relevant, to show the room settings in a way that it fits to your local market, for example. So you can work quite a lot with this. But also, what you don't see as a customer, the logistics behind, you can be, of course, very advanced. It was very interesting that when we talked to the new franchisee in Chile, that they have a very advanced logistics system. So they were even more advanced in some of the cases than their European colleagues. So, all this is very important in terms of what kind of structure do you have, what kind of people you work with, what kind of investments do you need to have. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a lot of good insight. I just wanted to say, like, so when you're starting or like when there's potential franchisees that request to start a franchise, do they generally come in like a group? Because like you mentioned, it's a huge upfront investment. So is there like a group of investors that are like, okay, we want to start a franchise here, and this is the capital we bring, this is the people we bring, and this is the culture we want to build here? Or is there could you give like an insight on like the starting up the franchise aspect of it?
So what we did was, so in the old days, the founder of IKEA, he was, since he could decide everything, so he was much more entrepreneurial and much more spontaneous. So he could work with somebody, something he trusted, and say, why don't we explore the opportunity here or there, But in the last decade, IKEA has developed very much insights on how to develop the business of IKEA, and especially where to go, where to expand, what countries. And so, of course, we got thousands of questions to open up a store, even from bigger organizations. Some of the organizations, they have asked for, it's huge organization. They have asked for 15, 20 years, and they couldn't get the franchise rights. And the reason for that is that IKEA needed, and it comes back to how do you want to look like as IKEA when you enter a market? You want to be the same brand as McDonald's wants to be the same brand in every country. Of course, they have some adaptations based on culture or vegan or something like that. But in principle, you want to look like at your best and what proven success is. So what we did was really to look at all global markets in the world and identify what are the markets that have a potential for IKEA? Meaning the income level is on a there's enough income for people. There's enough people that have an income that can afford IKEA. There is infrastructure in place. There is a cultural fit. There is free trade agreements. Since a lot of IKEA's products are produced in Europe, in China, or in Asia, you need, of course, to secure that there is a trade or the trade is possible between these countries, and it's not stopped by high import taxes, which you can say is, of course, a challenge with the what you see in many of the countries ongoing now, where, including the US, where there's a protectionism developing, where they say, no, we put import taxes, you have to produce it all here, otherwise it will be too expensive. That is nicely thought, but it's very difficult because you can't produce everything in one country, because the country has not the equipment, not the factories, the competence to do that, or even the raw material. So at the end of the day, it would mean, so even if you produce it, but you don't have the raw material, you need to transport that from another place to this country in order to produce the products. So all of this is basically, or let me formulate it like that. It was more important to see that the market is, that we are able to operate on the market with our brands, with our culture and values, with the trade preconditions, so that we could operate as IKEA, as a normal IKEA on the market. Potential we have seen in the majority of countries. Yeah, you could go to Africa and you could open up a store somewhere, and it would work most probably. But you don't get the volume. So that is the other point. We wanted to expand in a way that we concentrate volume in certain areas in the world, so that we create better conditions for the operations, meaning more volume, creating better logistical routines, more flow, negotiating prices or planning prices with supply chain operators, etc., etc.
Very, very nice. You pretty much answered some of our questions already. We want to ask, what do you think are the major competitors or threats to IKEA in the future? You know, online commerce is of course rising, but IKEA jumped on that. Smart home is an important sector. I love IKEA smart home products, by the way. So what's the situation with competition?
We have, IKEA is I think IKEA is the biggest home furnishing retailer in the world as one single brand. You can look at Amazon, for example. They have most probably 60,000 products, IKEA has a very limited range. It's actually the reason for the success of IKEA, to be very, very committed to a small range that is very efficient and focused, So you can say, of course, platforms like Amazon or the Chinese platforms that operating globally, but also in China, they are, of course, competition, you can say, in the traditional way. But IKEA always learned how to operate with that. And you can also say that IKEA doesn't sell any products on other channels. So if you want to buy an IKEA product, you have to come to IKEA. You can, of course, buy a similar product at other competitors. But if you want to have the full benefit of the competence that IKEA has from a completely designed range that fits together, that the sofa and the chairs, the storage and the kitchen, everything is designed in a way that you can very flexible put this together. You can buy one after each other, depending on how much money you have. So it's designed in this way, and If you just take normal retailers that have thousands of products, but they are all from different producers, it's more difficult for the customers to bring that together. But I want to tell you that I think the real threat for IKEA is not competition. It is actually a sustainable range. Because that is, you can imagine with all the products that we have, how much metal, how much wood, how much other textiles, cotton, and so on, IKEA is using. And with the climate change and the influence of what big companies like IKEA has, you have to work on the transformation of your offer, of how you do business. That means, and the easiest things are electrical vehicles, to have EV cars basically transporting your furniture to the customer. This is not, this is the simple thing, but to transform your range to materials that are, or to, let me formulate it like this, to produce more from less. That means a solid wood worktop in a kitchen, for example. Yeah. Can we afford as a company or as a society to have it solid wood in the future? Or because nobody sees the inside? Or do we need to produce or develop and produce a worktop for the kitchen that is very stable, but uses 80% of material less? The other things is many things are glued together, especially in the furniture industry. If you think about the particle boards, for example, you need to think about how do you develop your products in a way so that you can, when the wardrobe is not used anymore, that you can actually separate everything. You know, the wood, the glue, the other chemicals that are in it, or not chemicals in hopefully non-chemicals in the future, or chemicals that are that can be taken care of. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges for IKEA, and not just for IKEA, it's for everyone in the industry. And that is also one of the biggest focus of IKEA. So if you're interested, you can actually look at into IKEA systems, look for the sustainability reporting. For the, I don't know whether, I think they have not launched the one for 24, not for sure, but for 23, I think they have launched it. And you can look at what this sustainability strategy is and how IKEA is actually working on transforming the range to decrease impact and become CO2 neutral. So I think that is much more important than the competition. The other thing is customer focus, to really understand what your customer want. And it's not the shiny things. If you consider that, I know that when we went, I was for a while in the US board for retail, IKEA retail. And I know how many people struggling to even afford an IKEA chair or an IKEA product because they don't have enough income in the family. So these are the big challenges, I would say, you need to focus on and you need to build your business on.
I think you mentioned a lot of really good ideas. And moving on, so one of the specific questions I had is, how would you market a specific IKEA franchise on like a store level? For example, if there's a new IKEA in, let's say, an American city or like any city, for example, how would the like store owners, like on an independent level, like the store managers and the department managers, how would they help market it? And how would like the inter IKEA and basically the IKEA administrators, how would they help the big IKEA HQ, how would they help market the store to get it like running and on the ground?
Also, first of all, you can say that there is a huge communication production, marketing and communication production in IKEA. In the past, we had, I don't know whether you still remember, but we had this IKEA catalog, which was a printed booklet. I think the last, or the biggest volume which we had was around 200 million copies globally printed. So it was one of the annually, so one of the biggest print jobs in the world. That has transformed completely into digital content, content that is produced for more than one channel. An IKEA store, for example, the store manager is not anymore a store manager today. It's a market manager. That means the market manager is needs to make sure that the store is right prepared, that there's the right marketing, there's a launch campaign, there is radio spots, everything, radio, TV, print, of course online, a lot is happening. These kind of things are mostly to 80% produced centrally in order to secure cost, secure the same message, same impression of pictures and everything. So that is centrally produced and provided by the franchisor. Then you do market adaptations, so that it becomes really relevant to the store. But you get, as when you open a store or when you open a market, you're getting a lot of this centrally produced content. And that is for all channels, for digital channels, for print channels, for TV channels, for whatever channel you're using. Yeah. And then what is very successful is always some prices. If you say it's huge queues. If you say you can buy 100 sofas for 50 euro per piece, that creates a huge queue outside a store, for example. So this local activity, local relevant, making local campaigns where you have these kinds of buzz and people come and just run to your store. It's, in most of the cases, it's really big drama. The police never likes us if we open a store.
That's an interesting way to put it. So first of all, I don't know how much of this you can share, but how lucrative is a single IKEA store in its community, and how does each IKEA, what density is the goal with IKEA? Should there be a store every city, a store every two, a store every region? And what are sort of IKEA's plans in the future to grow and to increase the business?
Of course, I can't tell you any numbers. But you can say that. Of course, you always have. Sometimes you do mistakes, or sometimes a city is changing, or where you place the store, the environment is changing, and then it's not working very well, and so on. But normally, you can say that our stores is a sales machine, and a very profitable operations, you can say. But you also have to understand, it's developed since 70 years, more than 70 years. So everything in a store is not just how you talk to customers, how you place products, but the whole operations of a store that is based on long-term experience and optimized over time. So just to say that from how lucrative is an IKEA store, it's very. The other thing is, we also ask ourselves, how many stores could IKEA have in the world. Because if you take, for example, Home Depot or Target or Walmart, I think some of them are above 2,000 stores only in the United States, yeah, of different sizes and so on. And that's not the same as for us. And you can say that it wouldn't make sense to have one IKEA store. Now I don't know the city exactly how it looks like, but if you take Berlin, for example, Berlin has like 4.5 million people, and you have now you have four stores. You have four big stores in Berlin to serve them, and they are strategically placed so that you capture the different parts of Berlin, and people don't need to travel too long to an IKEA store. The other part is that you don't penetrate the market today only with physical stores. You do that with e-commerce. So you have to calculate how much does e-commerce take, how much does the store take, etc., etc. The interesting thing is that e-commerce is more successful in cities where also the stores are. As further you go away, it has not the same impact as in the cities where you have also IKEA stores. So IKEA, people love to experience the brand in different ways, huh? On your mobile phone, on your computer, and of course also physical, so that they can go there. So if we take cities like Los Angeles, you most probably could have some more stores there because it's so dense and it's so many people living there. If you take London, for example, you could have more. But the problem is also that you can't just build these huge stores all over in cities, especially not when they are very congested. Traffic is high. You have huge regulations. It's a pain to people living in a big city if they have all the commercial traffic going or passing their houses. So you have to also think about, do we need to have smaller assets or smaller formats that people can reach easier by a tram, by a subway, by bus, by bike? So, for example, Copenhagen, they just opened now a couple of months ago. They opened a very nice city store where it is really where the city and IKEA already from the beginning said, okay, it needs to be an integrated part of the city center because it's next to the central station. So that, and they didn't want just to have a lot of cars coming into the city center. So you needed to create access to public transport, to bikes. You need to think about how to deliver the products at home. How can people take products themselves home? So they have these cargo bikes, for example. So new formats, new ways of working to penetrate a city in a good way. But you can say, from a prioritization, it's always better to look at your city and to penetrate the markets where you're already established, where people know you, and make it easier for customers to go there before you open a new city, before you open a new country even.
Yeah, very nice. I've been to that Copenhagen store actually. I was also there this summer. So I was going to ask about the urban stores, but you explained it pretty well, traffic and all that. I think Ayush has something.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and this was based on going back a little bit, like you mentioned, IKEA stores are very lucrative. They make money, obviously. I was just wondering, around what year do you think like IKEA stores become profitable? Do you think they become profitable as soon as they launch, or at by like around the end of year one or year five, something around that? Because we've done like certain franchise business plans before, and most of them start making a profit by like year five, but that's like for smaller ones. And like you mentioned, IKEA has like very high standards, and it's really hard to get in. And you guys only go into places which has like consistent volume. So would you have anything to say on that?
So again, I can't tell you exactly the time that unfortunately I can't share with you, but you can say like that. Of course, you have, there, when I was working in Russia, we had some stores which were in remote cities. So that was regional stores that were up to 1,000 kilometers from Moscow. And Russia is organized very centralistic, where you have everything, every goods and so on comes through Moscow and spreads further into the country, this is also true in other countries. So it's depending on how the country is organized. But you can see there has been cities where they were more remote. Also, the income in these cities were lower. So in general, so if the store, you can say, if the store doesn't come to enough volume, or the volume of how much the store is selling is very much defining on how profitable you are and when you reach the profitability. And in the beginning, it takes always time. Even if the brand is known, it takes time until you get to the volume that you need in order to have the store profitable. Because the store needs to have high volume. The store is built for high volume. So if you have visitation that is not enough, you have a problem with the store. So therefore, the focus is so as quick as possible to increase the volume right from the beginning. It doesn't happen in year one, I can tell you. But there are stores, they can be much faster, and there are stores where it takes a little bit more time. Everything is volume depending.
Thank you so much. I'll ask about the IKEA effect, famous idea.
And just let me add something.
Sure.
Since you're as a store, as a single store, if you have a store in the US, in Los Angeles, say, yeah, and you have a second store that just starts up now, you can't increase or improve your profitability by increasing the prices, because you must have the same prices as the other store in Los Angeles. So playing with the prices is only possible for a certain part of the range, but in most of the cases, it's not really appreciated by customers if they say, but in this store it costs, on the internet it costs $9, and here it costs $12, and there it costs $7. So people get confused. They don't like that, and you don't want to do that as a brand normally. Yeah, so raising the prices will not help you. So you have to work with the basic success stories of IKEA, and that is volume.
Yeah, makes sense. So the IKEA effect, right? This famous idea, the design of the stores, I love it. It's been proven, right, to increase volume. What are sort of those signature parts of the IKEA brand, of the IKEA formula that you apply at every store and that you think is the most important to IKEA's success? Whether that be the colors, the branding, the store layout, the online system, the sort of contemporary design.
It starts all with the product. You can just say that. If the product is not good, the rest, you can have the best experience at the store, people will not come to the store. So it starts with the product. It has to be low price, good functionality, good design, but yeah, functional and beautiful. It has to be. You need to have, today, you need to build in sustainability. You need to make that happen, because otherwise people will not accept that going forward. Yeah. So the product, it starts with the product. Then I think the central elements why IKEA, or what makes IKEA successful, is the consistency of the brand and the experience. Wherever you go in the world, IKEA looks the same, more or less. So so people, and it doesn't matter if you're living in China, it doesn't matter how the store looks in the United States, but what IKEA does very well is to be super consistent in most of the things we're doing, from how the store is designed, the color, the natural flow, how you go through the store, where you place a store of IKEA, for example. Yeah, I think these are the biggest thing. The friendliness of the staff. It's something, even so it's maybe never enough people in the store, but this is where people react really and say, wow, it's so friendly and a nice atmosphere in the store. Yeah.
Yeah, we just have a couple of questions left and then we can wrap this up soon. And so I was wondering, how does like the franchise leadership look like on like a store level? I know you mentioned earlier there's like store managers and you also call them market managers. Going underneath that, could you give like some insight on what each level does and going all the way to like the employee level that are working on the ground scale?
Yeah. So what you can say is, if you have a franchise right for, so in general, IKEA so far, with two exceptions, has only, or three exceptions, is in most of the cases allocating a country to a franchisee. Which makes sense because we want the franchisee to be successful, but also to operate all channels so that you have the consistency. So IKEA doesn't do something, doesn't do online with somebody else or themselves and then offline the franchisee. Every store is a franchisee and has a franchise contract with into IKEA systems, so which is very clearly regulated. Everything, it's a big franchise contract that you have to sign when you do that. And the franchisee, even so, it's a group that is owning the franchise rights, and the store manager in one of the stores, so say let's say US, the store manager reports to the country manager or retail manager of the United States, but they are operating the business according to the franchise contract. That means they have to fulfill all the, there is manuals, there is requirements, how to operate, how to sell the range, how to present the range, and they have to fulfill that. Into IKEA Systems is following that up through, so you call that, or we call that concept reviews. That means into IKEA in the Netherlands is going to different countries, visiting the franchisees and check the stores. Is that according to the manuals that are describing how the store should look like? It's up to, checking whether the color is the right color on the facade and so on. It's a pretty advanced system. The franchisees and the store manager in that sense is basically trained by into IKEA Systems, and many of the store managers are really experienced IKEA people. Most of them are grown up. They have been before a salesperson, a shopkeeper, or something like that. So they know the concept themselves. It's in their blood. But still, of course, as a store manager, you can get trainings from the franchisor, how to operate an IKEA store, what are the different building elements of an IKEA store, what is the range looking like, why is the range, etc., etc. Another big part is the culture and values. That means into IKEA Systems provides a training on IKEA history, culture, and values, where store managers can go to Sweden and get a deep 1 week insight on how IKEA, the history of IKEA, and what is important, etc., etc. But otherwise, the store manager or market manager has the full, responsibility for the market that he is operating or she is operating. So they can, normally they are supported by the country organization with campaigns, etc., etc. But they can improve their operations in the store. They can improve and deal with customer interactions in a good way. They are very local, engaged locally with the community, with the mayor, with other organizations, etc. So they have a lot of room to develop the business in each local market.
I think that's really good. And just we're about to wrap this up, and I just have like a couple of personal questions that are a little bit more fun. What would you say your personal favorite? My apologies, I'm a little sick. What's your personal favorite IKEA product or something? What's the favorite thing you've seen in IKEA or like bought from IKEA?
Okay, I bought several kitchens from IKEA since I worked with kitchens. I know it's one of the world's best kitchen systems. I know it by heart, and I know how it's designed and developed. I know it's really good quality, and has a you can't beat the price of IKEA kitchens. I have to say, I really like it. But personally, I like IKEA lamps a lot. There's quite some nice ones from a design perspective. I like. I don't know whether you know that there's this Stockholm sofa. It's a beautiful
very
sofa.
nice.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, so there's some really nice design things, and then I like the some of the IKEA beds are really good. The mattresses are really good. So, but my favorite product is actually I don't have it here, but it's a special chair you can only buy at the IKEA museum in Älmhult. Or maybe they have launched it now in IKEA, I don't know. But this is a stool, not a chair, a stool, where you have 3 legs. It's inspired by the farmers in the past when they were take the milk from the cows. They were sitting on these small stools. And the founder of IKEA, he inspired this design, so he has created this stool a couple of years ago. So that's my favorite product.
That is very interesting to hear. And finally, sort of, you worked your way up from the bottom, right? So what does it feel to direct a company like IKEA did feel? To direct a company like IKEA when you've worked, down at the store level, and what did your average day look like at IKEA? What responsibilities do you think were most important?
The most fun part in IKEA are the people. I loved my colleagues. It was, and it doesn't matter where you work, in which country, which organization. It feels like when I moved with a family from Germany to Sweden, and then from Sweden to Russia, and then from Russia to the Netherlands, I only had to take my laptop with me, and then I went into the office in the other country, and I felt like home. Because people were, it's a very friendly atmosphere at IKEA. And I like also with IKEA that, just what I like, is the possibility that you can develop yourself. I started in retail. Then I worked with commercial questions. I became a sales leader for a country. Then I worked with product development. Then I worked in franchising, expansion. So you can do a lot because IKEA is it's a very connected value chain, and you have really competences for all parts of the value chain in IKEA. So you can actually move quite a lot. And that is defining you as a leader. If you lead IKEA, you have to understand that IKEA is not just a retailer or not just a product developer. You need to understand in every decision you take, what are the consequences for the whole supply chain? If for example, IKEA would sell this phone, and it would sell the phone for $99. And I would, as a store manager, I would say, wow, but $99, we could sell it for $200. And I would increase the price to $200 with the effect that 30% of my customers would not buy it anymore. So I would 30% less volume of this phone sold would create a huge problem for the one who is producing this telephone. So you need to understand, if I do something in the front end on the product, or if I reduce the space of my store or my sales space so that I can't take care of all the volume that is sent to me, then you're creating not just a problem for yourself, but you're creating a problem for the whole organization. So you have to think in many cases end to end. You can't just be a store manager. You also have to think, okay, what does it mean? Why is the price of this product so low? What is behind it? And why do I need to put it on a very prominent space in the store? So we're selling the committed volume. And as a supplier from IKEA, you need to think about, I can't just put my chair in any box when I'm sending it. I have to the millimeter follow the packaging of the IKEA requirements. Yeah, I need to follow this, because that chair will be transported in containers. When it's a high volume chair, it could be that a whole container goes directly to a store into another country, from Europe to US or vice versa, whatever. But you have to understand that you have to follow it, because at the end, it goes from the producer directly into the sales space in a store. If you don't understand that, it's a problem.
Well then, okay. Thank you for all of the questions you've answered. Personally,
You're welcome.
You're really inspirational. This incredible history at this company that I personally love. It's always fun. Have you ever heard of Dieter Rams, a famous industrial designer from Germany? Worked in Bauhaus. Dieter Rams.
Yeah.
Dieter Rams. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a quote he said is that I only consider there are, like he said, 5 companies working today who really care about design, and I'm not going to name them. I like to think that IKEA is one of the companies he would have named, because when the storage boxes fit the the TV stand so well, it really brings me happiness. The quality of the products, it's amazing. It's amazing what the company does. It's amazing, in my opinion, what you've done. The new stores, the urban stores, the smaller stores, I think it's a great idea. All the way to the meatballs. So it's iconic. I can't say anything more than that. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I just want to say I reciprocate with whatever Ege has mentioned. Unfortunately, I haven't had the good fortune to go to Europe and visit any of the IKEA stores there. However, that's on my bucket list, and that's on my plan to go whenever I visit Europe. Our closest IKEA store is in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but
Yes.
I used to live in Charlotte a while, like 3 or 4 years ago. We used to live there for like 5 years, and we used to always go to IKEA like every 6 months or so, because my mom used to love it, and she was like, let's go there. And I used to love going there, and like I don't know if they still have it. They had like the pencils and the rulers, and I used to just play around with them, even though I wasn't like actually getting anything. But it was a really fun experience that I still remember to this day, and um hopefully I will continue in the future. So, and
Sure.
really appreciate your time here.
You're welcome. I'm happy to support, and I wish you good luck. And if you have any questions, just shout out. Okay.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Danke, tschüss.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.